Hi, and welcome to the Book Revolution podcast. My name is Tim. You are?
You are alone.
well,
I'm Amanda.
that's good.
No, it's not.
Why not?
Amanda's tired.
Yeah, why is Amanda tired?
Amanda's had a long day.
No. Welcome to the Book Revolution podcast, the podcast about books.
Like and subscribe on YouTube to the Bin Network.
Yeah,
We're on the Bin Network on YouTube.
do that.
Or follow us on Spotify or Amazon Music or Audible or other podcast places. But
Yeah.
we're the Book Revolution podcast there.
Yeah. And follow us individually on Storygraph.
Yeah. I am at TBR Hammer.
And I am Vic Stryker.
Also, when you listen to our podcasts, make sure you comment with topic suggestions for future shows. Or give us book recs. None of us have finished any of your book recs yet. We'll get to them.
Yeah.
I apologize.
Those are 2025 goals.
They're on the TBR list.
Also, if you leave overly long comments, we're not going to share them because they're overly long.
And rambling with bad typos and unclear.
Yeah. So this is technically like our end of the year 2024, although we're recording it in 2025 podcast.
Because some of us had reading goals to meet and we didn't have time to podcast.
So 2024 was, we only did like 5 episodes, so there's not a whole lot, but we do have some book recommendations.
Wait, you're skipping into our topic of the day.
What's our topic of the day?
That is our topic of the day, is our 24 recap. But first we have to talk about what we're currently reading.
Oh, okay. What are you currently reading?
I just started The Nightingale by Kristen Hanna. It's about... I'm not entirely sure. I didn't read the back of the book. It was recommended to me by a friend, so it's on loan. But it's 1940s, World War II, about, I don't know, a nurse, I assume, since it's called The Nightingale. But we'll see. Historical fiction. Should be fun.
Okay.
What are you reading?
I'm currently reading 2 books because I don't have self-control.
And you don't like to finish books.
And I don't like to finish books. So I'm currently reading a book called Blood Over Bright Haven.
That was your Christmas Eve book.
Yeah, that was what my wife got me for Christmas Eve. It's a book about, so far, wizards.
Some of us finished our Christmas Eve books.
Yeah, well, some of us didn't.
And what's your other book that you're reading?
It's called Going Gone. It's the second book in a series.
Is that the Ireland book that you're reading?
Yeah, it's in the Irish Endgame series.
Oh, that's a book you haven't reviewed yet. You should review. That's a recent read you finished.
Yeah. We'll
review that at the end.
Yeah.
Okay, now we can move on to the topic of the day, which is our 24 recap.
So we both have some books to review for 2024.
We read more books than, I read more books than we podcast, and we started late in the year. So Tim's got other books that he hasn't reviewed either.
Yes, I have a couple. So would you like to go first?
Sure. I have 45 books that I've not yet reviewed on here. So we'll start at number 1.
Okay.
Just kidding. We're not going to do that. That would take way too long. I think I'm just going to talk about some of the highlights. Some of the maybe surprise ones that I really loved that I didn't think I would love as much as I did, maybe.
Okay.
So let's start with The Watchers. I don't think I discussed this one on here before. I might have hinted at it when we were doing our book to movie translation episodes or conversion episodes. But The Watchers is, if anyone knows, is a recent movie that M. Night Shyamalan and his daughter's debut film, I think. Anyways, I happened to buy it when we were on our last trip to Ireland. Because it's from an Irish author, it takes place in Ireland. And I love buying horror books from Ireland from Irish authors. I think they're fantastic. So The Watchers I read solely because my mother-in-law wanted to go see the movie when it was coming out. And I said, okay, I guess I'm reading that book next. Read through it. I thought it was fantastic, honestly. The book was really good. It kept you guessing. It had some twists. And as far as horror books go, I feel like the ending, horror books, movies, whatever, the ending makes or breaks it. and I really thought the ending for this book was phenomenal. Um, and really made the story what it needed to be. Don't judge that review if you've watched the movie and not read the book. They are completely different stories. It's one of those representations of a really bad movie adaptation where they changed what I feel are all the most important things. They changed the ending, which just destroyed the story. But I thought that was a great one. Give that a shot. It's called The Watchers. It's by A.M. Shine. It's a really good book. Do you want me
Okay.
to keep going, or do you want to like
I'll
intersperse with
yeah,
yours?
I'll do one. I'll
Okay.
do one. So we mentioned that I read the book one of a series called the Irish Endgame series.
Mm-hmm.
So the first book is called Free Falling. It's book one of the Irish Endgame series. It was
This you
published.
found out is a very large series, right?
Yes, it's like 20 books.
Okay.
And I had no idea. It was in my Kindle that I got it for free so long ago.
On like one of the what do they call it? Stuff your Kindle day.
Yeah, one of those things. And so the book was published in 2001. The author's name is Susan Carrion Lewis, and it's a fiction, sci-fi, post-apocalypse kind of thing. The basic premise of the story is family of Americans fly to Ireland for a vacation. Something happens while they're on vacation, like some sort of nuclear attack in America and in the UK, and they get stuck in Ireland.
Okay.
And it's kind of like there's no power, there's no cars, like everything gets turned off from one of the nuclear explosions. So they have to like live like it's 2 centuries ago in Ireland.
Okay.
That's basically book one, and I just started reading book two,
Okay.
and somehow it's stretched into like 12 books.
Did you enjoy book one? I
I
mean, must have enough to read book two, but
I the first half of it was a lot of world building, so it was very slow,
okay.
and then it sort of picked up in the second half with the I guess we'll call it the incident in the book, the troubles that they go through.
Mm-hmm.
I liked it. I thought it was a good book. Since we've been to Ireland and we've been to some of the places described in the book,
Mm-hmm.
it's interesting to like it's better to visualize those things, I suppose.
Mm-hmm.
And the writer gets the I guess the temperament of the Irish pretty well.
Okay.
Um and the temperament of Americans. Like it's very much a since it was written in 2001. I don't know when in 2001 this was published, but like it's very much like a post no, I would say it's a pre 9/11 sort of view of like what would happen
Well, I mean, I feel like it would have to be pre 9/11 because
yeah.
if it was published in 2001, it was written well before 2001 too, even if just the year before.
Yeah, it's a interesting pre 9/11 view of like what a terrorist attack would look like.
All right.
And what would happen. But it's a good book, and I just started reading the second book, and shit goes down immediately in the first like few chapters of the second book. So
A little bit
it's
more gripping for you.
yeah, a little bit.
All right.
What did I review it as? I think I gave it 4 stars.
You don't hand out your stars that easily, so that's
Yeah, four
kind of a
stars.
glowing recommendation for you.
Yeah, it was a good book.
All right.
What's another one you got?
All right. So I also have I read through the entire series of The Four Horsemen by Laura Thalassa. So it was pestilence, war, famine, and then death. Um, romanticy genre.
So quick question:
You know,
How is how are the four horsemen of the apocalypse romanticy?
the Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse arriving in Earth is pretty fantasy.
No, I mean like romanticy. Like how is it
They all fall in love with somebody.
the four horsemen of the apocalypse?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So, all right, the premise is, and I don't, this isn't really giving anything away. I mean, when I first opened Pestilence and I read like the first chapter, I was like, well, I see where this is gonna go. So hopefully it's not a big spoiler. But the premise is the four horsemen come, and one by one, like they all come together, and all technology shuts down on Earth basically when they arrive on Earth, and then they kind of go dormant for a bit, and one by one they each awaken and wreak their havoc on Earth. And They start they each start in different places of the earth, um, and they're tasked with bringing along whatever their plague is, right? Pestilence, war, famine, or death. Um, and through the process, they're supposed to determine whether humankind is redeemable enough to let them live.
Okay.
And that's the stories, basically the story arcs. And they each have their own arc, which is it's kind of interesting. It's a four-part series, obviously, and each book, um, it's a completely new set of characters. So book one is Pestilence. That's Pestilence's story. Book two, there's like hints at, oh, Pestilence was here before and blah blah blah, but none of those characters are anymore in that book. It's a whole new book.
Okay.
And then all of them kind of tie up together in the fourth book, which I found really neat and interesting. I'm not used to that. I'm normally the series is one set of characters that you're kind of following, whether it be 2 or 10 or 20, but they're all the same people throughout all the books. Um so it was an interesting take. I also was worried that it was going to be a very cookie cutter romantasy plot line.
Yeah.
Girl wins over strong brooding man. Very very cookie cutter, which I'm fine with. There were good quick reads to get through my reading goals for the year. But I was pleasantly surprised with the turns that the author decided to bring in so that they were not as predictable as I thought they were going to be. Like they definitely had predictability to them, which any of the romanticides with the certain tropes have. Obviously, they're all standard um, plot lines, but I thought that they did a really good job uh, diverting from those a little bit, or at least not being as predictable as they could have been, and giving different uh, skills and features to the characters so that they were a bit more interesting than I expected. So I was very pleased. I went through it real quick, and I would highly recommend it. I think two of the books I gave a 5 or close to it, and two of the books around a 4. So two were a little bit more interesting than others.
Okay.
Um, but overall, it was a very good series. I loved it.
All right. Well, we'll clap for it. Here we
That
go.
was the wrong clap.
Oh, that was the wrong clap. All right. There we go. Yeah. All right. I got another one. Let's see. What else did I read this year that I didn't review? I read. Oh, I could. I guess I could review this. So I read Bleach Volume 4 in December. I didn't really review it, but I talked about it. It's just, let's see. Volume 4 is, I think it's 4 out of like 17 or 18 actual books. Um it's good. It's good. It's one of the better arcs in the story, and a lot of character development. Um I gave it 4 stars. It's not the best parts of the stories, it's kind of middle parts,
Okay.
but it's a good read.
I assume you have previously read that since you love Bleach.
I haven't read that. So the way that the manga sort of happen is they're released in chapters through the magazine that they get released through,
Mm-hmm.
and then they get put into smaller books, and then those books get put into bigger books. So the book that I read is technically 3 of the books put into one.
Okay.
And I haven't read that. I haven't read that section of the story, but I've like, watched it in the anime.
Oh, okay.
I think I have maybe one of the books that goes into that book, but I don't have all of them. And
Do
I've
you have a preference of having the standalones or the compilation sized ones?
I think at this point, because the story is over, like it's all been written, I would prefer the big chunky ones
Mm.
because it just gives you more stuff to read. And because it's manga and it's like a comic book, it's a very quick read.
Mm-hmm.
So I like breezed through that. But yeah, I think I think I'd like the chunky ones. I've read all the actual manga online as it was coming out.
Okay, so you have read this before. You just didn't
Yes.
have it
I
in a book format. It was like a weekly release
Yeah, it
format.
was like a weekly comic strip
Got it.
release
Okay.
online. But I've read it all online. I only have like I think I have like six of the smaller books, and this is the first chunky book I have.
Got it.
But yeah, 4 stars. It's got some good parts. There's some good fights and character moments. What about you? What else you got?
I don't know. How many more do you have?
I have probably two more that I can talk about.
Okay. So let's go with The Reset by Daniel Powell.
Okay.
I was surprised by this one. This one I think was another like stuff your Kindle book that I had, and I just started reading it randomly when I was bored one day and looking for something on my Kindle. It's a post-apocalyptic type book,
Okay.
so I guess kind of sci-fi-ish. Um and the premise is the main character is well, it starts with like he's basically by himself wandering through southeastern United States, Georgia
Okay.
and Arkansas area, Alabama area. Um and for the most part there are people who there's very few people around. A lot of the people have gone to uh gang related things basically for protection, and you pay your tithe or whatever. Um Anyways, he finds a place to stay, and it's about kind of camaraderie. But the thing I found interesting was the premise they used to get to this post-apocalyptic America, and it was basically he was one of the people, like I don't know, 6 or 8 orphans
Okay.
who were being raised by this scientist,
Okay.
and implanted them all with nuclear devices as they were growing up in their chest.
Like they would explode?
Yes, they were the nuclear bombs,
All right.
and there was a strategic position for them to explode in various cities in America. And he was supposed to be one of them. He never detonated. I forget. I read this early on last year, so I forget if he didn't explode because of defect or he didn't press the trigger. I don't remember entirely. But it was an interesting premise, right? Because people know that it was people exploding.
Right.
And so if they look at his chest, they know he's one of the people, and then they want to harm, kill, maim, whatever, because he caused this. Um, but he was also obviously he's just a kid
Right.
when that happened to him, so he also isn't malicious. It was an interesting story, um, and it ended up just being about really survival in a post-apocalyptic world and finding camaraderie and things like that. It started really slow, and I really didn't think I was gonna like it, but halfway through, I really got invested in it. They took the story where I didn't think it was gonna go, and I really liked it.
Okay.
It was definitely worth a read if you're into post-apocalyptic stories.
And what rating did you give it?
Ooh, let me see. I gave it a 3.75. So it's very nearly a 4.
Okay.
It had some pieces that kind of dragged, so it didn't get a full 4 from me, but it was good. I liked it.
Okay. I the next one I got is a book called Medallion Status: The True Stories from Secret Rooms by John Hodgman. He's a comedian and podcaster and a B-list celebrity, and that's what his entire book is about.
Being a
Uh,
B-list
Being
celebrity.
a B-list, that's exactly what the book is
All
about.
right.
It's sort of about his career from The Daily Show through where he is now as sort of a podcaster and like on again, off again TV character.
Okay.
And it's about like all the extra famous people he got to meet by being a B-list celebrity and sort of the trials and tribulations of not being that famous.
All right.
And he talks about his time on the Daily Show. He talked about his time on a few network television shows that he was a part of, and where he is now as like a podcaster and stand-up comedian. And it's called Medallion Status because he loves to fly, and his, I guess, sort of his love hate relationship with certain airlines and their medallion status, sort of their perks packages.
Mhm.
and it's a good book. I gave it a 4.5. It's happy at times, it's sad at times, and it's really informative about like what it's like to be kind of famous, but not really. Like it's interesting because his career goes through sort of peaks and valleys, and
Well,
y-
he also like I feel like his face is a very recognizable face, but you don't know from what.
well, most people know him from the early Macintosh commercials where he was the Mac or he was the PC.
Yeah,
Yeah, he was the
yeah,
PC, and was it Justin Long was the Mac?
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's where his, like, career really started going because people are like, "Oh, you're the PC guy." Then he was a correspondent on The Daily Show for a while, and then he did a few of his own stand-up things, then he got into podcasting, and he has one of my favorite podcasts,
Yeah, you do love
the
his
the
podcast.
Judge John Hodgman podcast, and he's just been, like, a secondary characters on a few television shows.
All right.
But good book. I gave it a 4.5. His style of writing, I've read a few of his books. His style of writing is for me. He's very like quippy,
Mhm.
and he has a lot of like pop culture references in there that I get. So
Mhm.
it's good stuff.
Good. All right. All right, up next. The Heiress by Rachel Hawkins. So, this book came out in 2024. It's a kind of a like suspense thriller story. Um the matriarch of a family dies. The matriarch of a very wealthy family dies and like leaves her entire fortune to one of her children and not the other of the children. And family shenanigans basically ensue. But the child that she gave everything to was an adopted child and not her natural born child, so it causes all of these turmoils and family drama and things. Um and the child she gave everything to, him and his fiance like travel home across country. I think I want to say they're in Colorado to begin with, and then but the family home is in North Carolina, so like they travel to North Carolina and they're trying to like wrap up the estate, but there's a lot of like there is with most old money families, there's a lot of secrets that happen
Uh-huh.
inside the family that some people know about and some people don't, and sometimes the town knows and sometimes they don't.
Why
Um
isn't there ever an old money family that doesn't have any skeletons in the closet? Like why isn't there just a family that has had money for generations and they've just been good people for generations?
People don't write stories about those people. They probably exist, but nobody wants to read about it. It's kind of boring. Anyways, so the heiress has, all these secrets get uncovered throughout the book, and the biggest secret comes out at the end, and it's a massive twist. And it was just a really well written book. It kept me guessing. Not that I'm, a sleuth when it comes to uncovering those sorts of books and uncovering the secrets. Some people maybe it was obvious, but I really enjoyed it. I found it twisting, and it kept my interest. I gave it 4 stars.
All right. 4 stars. I got one more book, and it's a cookbook.
You love your cookbooks.
Amanda knows that I'm obsessed with my cookbooks.
Yep. See, now
Um,
I'm of the mindset, and I don't want to offend people, but I don't really care either that a cookbook isn't really a book to read. You
it
can't
is
really
a book to
read a
read.
cookbook.
You read and you learn. It's not just about the recipes. Anyway,
Yeah, well,
this book in particular isn't just about the recipes. It's a book called Texture Over Taste by Joshua Weissman.
mhm.
It's a cookbook that focuses more on the texture of food rather than flavor profiles. And it's I guess unique in that regard because when you read a cookbook, most cookbooks are about this flavor, that flavor. You want salt, you want sugar, or whatever it is. This one's more about how to make things crunchy or how to make things smooth or aerated or fatty or whatever it is. And I just think it's a unique perspective on cooking, focusing on the actual texture of food over the taste of it.
I'm a big texture eater, so I approve of you having this cookbook and enjoying it.
um I've used it a few times for recipes. I've almost used it for a focaccia recipe, but the recipe was like what 72 hours
Yeah.
for focaccia, and that's just too long. But it's supposed to be like an extra crispy focaccia, but I just don't have that kind of time. Um, but
Need
I
focaccia now.
yeah. But I also like Joshua's take.
YouTube channel? Oh, you take.
Oh
I
yeah,
thought
I
you
was
were
gonna
talking
say his
about.
take on the, but yes, his YouTube channel. I do like his take on food and his take on like how to cook and all that. He's not very um what's the word? He's not very he doesn't look down on people for I guess how they cook. He's very much, cook how you want, learn new
A chef
things.
for the people.
A chef for the people. And I do have his other cookbook. I haven't gone through it too much though. But I just think as far as cookbooks go, it's pretty innovative. It's a different take on things, and I gave it a 4.5.
All right. Cool. Was that your last?
That's my last. So you got one more.
All right. Cool. Because I saved the best for
All
last.
right.
In honor of it being January 2025, the two books that were the most influential for me in 2024 was Fourth Wing and Iron Flame.
Okay.
And in a couple of weeks, towards the end of January, book 3 comes out in the series, Onyx Storm, and I cannot wait for it. But Iron Flame and Fourth Wing are kind of what started me into romantasy again. And realizing that I do truly like the genre. So it's about teenager in fantasy world where there's dragons, and your position in the country basically comes from what your schooling is in this college. It's called Basquiat War College, and you're either a dragon rider or a scholar basically, or I don't know, there's a couple others. Um but those are the two talked about the most. And as you go through school, you learn this stuff. So there's obviously dragons, there's magic. Um, I thought I did a really good job with, at least for someone like me who was not fully in the romantasy realm yet. It did a really good job bringing me into it. It did a really good job kind of explaining their magic system, explaining the hierarchy that exists in this basically war faction, an army faction, and has the rankings and all of the inner workings of like a military system would have, but adding dragons and fantastical villain creatures as well, like wyverns. Um, so it was. I read it. I don't know, early 2024, right as I think Iron Flame came out. I read them both and just fell in love with the genre, with that particular world, and it started this whole trend. So it can be blamed for all of this.
uh,
They both got 5 stars, by
they
the way.
both got 5 stars.
They
All right.
both got 5 stars. Shadow daddies and close proximities and enemies to lovers and all that kind of stuff. It was fantastic.
All right. So let's go into like our best and worst of the year. What was your favorite book of the year?
Well, according to the very awesome Storygraph recaps that it gives you, if you sign up for Storygraph, you get really great recaps at the end of the year. So,
Oh, by the way, Storygraph sponsor us.
right?
Give us money and we'll say more nice things about you.
My top 5-star reads were Fourth Wing, Iron Flame, and then A Court of Mist and Fury, which I believe was book 2, I think, of A Court of Thorns and Roses. My least liked book, I think. Hold on, let me just pull it back up again. Pretty sure it was Angela's Ashes,
Okay.
because I did not enjoy that book at all. But let's double check. Yeah, one book at 1 star.
I don't have any reviews below like 3.5. I haven't read any books that I was like, oh my god. This book is awful. Not yet. My average review for 2024 is 4.19.
Oh, mine was 4.0. Storygraph is kind of cool because it'll give you the book that you read the quickest, the book that it took you the longest to read, the shortest book that you read of the year, the longest book that you read of the year. It's pretty cool. You guys should check it out. It tells you which one was your first book, which one was your last.
Yeah, let's see. Let me go through some of these here. The longest book that I read was the Bleach Volume 4. It's 576 pages. The shortest book I read was Electoral Politics is Not Enough at 192 pages. That's a Peter F. Burns book. The book I read the fastest was Free Falling, that Irish Endgames book.
Mm-hmm.
I read it in 6 days.
Wow.
And the book I spent the most time reading was How Democracies Die. That took 113 days to read, apparently.
Jesus.
Yeah, and it was not a very long book. It was like 300 pages, but it was very dry.
All right. So here are mine. The first book of my year was North Woods by Daniel Mason. That was the 2023 Christmas Eve book gift.
Okay.
I was not a fan of that one. The last book of the year was Kill the Beast by Serena Valentino. It's the Beauty and the Beast story from Gaston as a child, basically. It was okay. It was fine. It was a quick read. My longest book of the year was A Court of Silver Flames by Sarah J. Maas. It was 751 pages.
751 pages.
Yeah.
Dear God.
My shortest book of the year was A Court of Frost and Starlight, which is interesting to me because they're both from the same series. It was both my longest and my shortest book of the year. The shortest was 233 pages. My quickest book read was 2 days, Fault in Our Stars by John Green, which I was surprised to realize I had not yet read, so I wanted to read that. And actually, The Reset took me the longest time. That took 25 days, and that is because it was a slow starter, and I was kind of just reading it on the Kindle when I had spare time here and there.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't fully invested. The funny thing is that was not my only 700 plus page book for last year either.
Did you have any DNFs? Did you have any books that you didn't
No.
finish?
I mean, I have books that are... All right. So how do you classify...
A book that you're not going to finish.
Yeah, then I don't have that.
Okay. I don't have any DNFs. The highest rated book that I read was The Bleach Volume 4. My rating for it was a 4, but other people's rating was a 4.24.
All right. So I just pulled up the graph of, books by number of pages.
Yeah.
So here are the top volume books that I read for the year. 751 pages is The Court of Silver Flames, which we went over.
Jesus.
623 pages for Iron Flame.
Okay.
723 pages for my Christmas Eve book, which was Never Keep, by the way. I forgot to mention that in the review things. That was a great book. Let's see. What else is over 600 pages? A Court of Mist and Fury was 626. Quicksilver, 670. Court of Wings and Ruin, 720.
So you read a lot of...
Queen of Shadows, 648.
How many pages did you read in 2024?
I read 22,587 pages.
That's a lot of pages.
In 50 books.
That's a lot of pages.
My goal is higher this year. I agree. I believe in increasing your goals year over year. So last year's goal was 50 books. I didn't have a pages goal, but that's the number I read. And this year's goal, I'm going to make a pages goal because why not? So I want to read 55 books this year and read 26,000 pages.
All right.
I got one book down, so I'm 2% of the way, and 348 pages down, so I'm 1% of the way on pages.
All right, let's see. So for my
my next book is 500 plus pages. So
for my book goals, I got, let's see. Last year, because I sort of started this late, I put 5 books. I read 8. And for this year,
You deserve a pat on the back for that. You exceeded your goal. That's not nothing.
All right, I put in a clap for myself.
Good. I'm a big proponent of I don't care how much you read. If you're reading, you're winning.
So this year I put 20 books.
All right.
And my page goal is 5,000 pages because I read like 4,500 last year.
Okay.
So
cool.
I got a lot of books to read apparently.
Yeah, you gotta get on
it. Let's see. Looking ahead to 2025. Aside from the book that you already talked about that's coming out, are there any other books you're excited about reading?
Yeah, so actually the Christmas Eve book I got was Never Keep. It's I forget the author's name. It's two authors. It's co-written by sisters, but it's the same authors of the Zodiac Academy series, which I have not read. This is a Sins of the Zodiac series. It was a very good book. I wasn't expecting it to be as interesting as it was. And book 2 of that series comes out in April, so I'm excited for that one.
Okay.
Other than that, I don't really necessarily follow specific books that are being released unless they are a part of a series that I'm looking forward to.
Right.
There is supposed to be another book coming out for A Court of Thorns and Roses, but I don't really care about it, so whatever.
Oh yeah. What are you going to finish reading your punishment books?
I guess. I guess. I think that's one of the so in Storygraph they have some challenges you can kind of sign up for in addition to your normal book goals and page goals if you so choose. And one of them was clearing your TBR.
Okay.
And I think that I'm going to have to make those like it's got 12 prompts to clear your TBR and you assign whatever book it is that you want to clear that prompt. So I have to do that later today. Assign those books out and my guess is that my punishment books are going to be a part of that assignment so that they get cleared out. That's kind of my goal for the year is get through a lot of the books that I own and have not yet read. I've got a lot of those. How about you?
So apparently I'm going to get wrapped up in this Irish Endgame series.
Do you think those are going to be all your 20 books?
I don't think so. I don't. There's not 20. I think I was exaggerating. There's like 12 or 15. I think.
Oh, that would have been so cool if there were
Yeah.
20 and that was your whole.
Yeah. I have to wait for the new Five Broken Blades book to come out.
Does
I
that
don't
come
know
out
when
this year?
I don't know. I have no idea. You can look it up if you want, but I don't know because now I've read it, so now I have to read the next one. The Storygraph was like, hey, and in the end of the year thing, they're like, hey, this isn't the kind of book you normally read, because they're like, here's a book that you haven't read before, Five Broken Blades. Why are you reading that? Yeah, I think I'm excited to clear out my.
Ooh.
Yeah, it's not 2025, is it?
It comes out in 2 days.
In 2 days.
In 2 days.
All right. Well, I guess I'll have to get it. So boy, it's gonna be another like 500 pages.
It probably has all that stat right now, actually, for you. Let me check. Hardcover book is 432 pages. It does say it's book 2 of 2, though, so it's a finished series, I think, after this, maybe.
Oh, good. That's fine. I'd be fine with
Unless
that.
it's only saying that, like, because there's only 2 out. But it says book 2 of 2.
All right. So yeah, I guess I'll have to read that. I'm also going to be probably reading books for school because I have another semester of class, so there'll be some more political science books in there.
Mm-hmm.
I think I do have to clear out some of my to be read stuff and finish some books that I started. So I got to finish that Becky Lynch book. I got to finish
that yet?
Nope. I keep getting distracted by other things. Obviously, I'm going to finish the 2 books I'm reading. Let's see. What is in my to read pile here? To read recommendations. Yeah. So let's see. To read. Books I'm going to read this year include. Oh, yeah. I'm definitely that cookbook I saw in Barnes & Noble. I'm going to get that at some point. It's called The Walk, and it's
We
about
could have just gotten
cooking
it
with.
the other
Shut
day.
up. I could have.
You could have.
Let's see.
My TBR pile on Storygraph is not accurate because it does not include most of the books upstairs. It only includes the books that I've received since October.
Oh, there's a book on my shelf that I wanted to read, but I also haven't gotten around to it called, what's it called?
Which book?
The Blade Itself. Yeah.
By Joe Abercrombie.
Yeah, The Blade Itself. I think I mentioned it in like the first or second episode that I was started to read it. I read like 5 pages and forgot about it. Now I'm reading other things, so that'll have to be on the shelf to read this year. I think that I mean, I got a lot of books to read. I gotta find a way to read 20 books this year. So they'll definitely be books.
That's almost 2 books a month.
Yeah, which
it's a lot.
That's a lot of books.
So we typically wrap our shows up with a review of our most recent reads. Do you have any more reviews to give?
I know, because my most recent read was that.
Irish book?
Yeah,
Okay. Which was 4 stars you gave it?
I gave it 4 stars. Yeah.
4 stars. Okay. So I will review my most recent read because it's 2025 and it's my first book of 2025.
All right.
So I read The Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller. I believe it was Madeline Miller. Obviously Greek mythology story of Achilles actually starts with him as a boy, and he has like a companion, and it just follows his story up till his death. I thought it was well written. It dragged at times, but overall it was good. As long as you like Greek mythology, it was fun. It had all the typical things mythology does: unnecessary death and battles and fighting and angry gods and vengeance and all that stuff. So it was decent.
All right.
It was a dark way to start the year, I suppose, but it was good. I liked it. I think I
And
gave it 3 stars.
3 stars. Okay.
Yeah, just because it dragged a little bit, but the story was good.
Yeah, I don't have anything else to review. I sort of just started 2 books, so hopefully I'll have something to review next time.
Okay.
And the other usual way we end the show is listener comments. Let me just scan Spotify real quick, see if there's any comments from Spotify. But we did get an overly long YouTube comment about what is and isn't romantasy.
Yeah, I'm going to address that for a minute, actually.
Okay,
I'm not
you
going to
do
go
that.
into the details of what was in the comment, but I would like to point out that romantasy as a subgenre is literally defined by just being fantasy setting, romance story. That's it. So, like, the fact that I like the erotic pieces of romantasy doesn't mean that that's all romantasy. That's just the part of it that I like. That's what gets me in it. So, I don't know what the rambling was in that comment. Everyone, feel free to go look at it and read through. There was a lot of things said, and a lot of it was really unintelligible. But not saying all romantasy is erotica, and I'm not blaming anyone for, or I'm not like accusing someone of liking a book that's not romantasy because it doesn't have enough fantasy. But I don't know. The comments made it sound like it couldn't possibly be called romantasy if it didn't have a world building level of Tolkien or George R. R. Martin, which is just not true.
Yeah, there's plenty of
It's just not
fantasy.
true.
There's plenty of fantasy books out there, and titles and genres that are, well,
Authors all write different styles.
yeah, and
Some are going to have extensive exposition and world building, and some are going to have modest.
and listen, not all the romantasy books are good. Some of them are just nonsense.
Yes, accurate.
Uh, and I would like to say a general rule that I learned from John Hodgman is people like what they like, and so we should just let people like what they like.
I'm not telling anyone not to like what they like.
No, I'm just saying, like, as a general rule, especially in reading, like everyone has their own tastes.
Mm-hmm.
So no book shaming. No book shaming.
Can I book shame?
I guess.
Yes.
Well, I mean, you're reviewing books, so technically, yeah. Right? I mean, that's our job, kind of, a little bit.
I'm gonna make a comment to reiterate that Bleach is romantasy. Fuck you!
Here, let's... I don't know which button to... There we go. Yeah, so leave a comment in
Was there no comments on Spotify?
There was no comments on
Okay.
Spotify. So, leave a comment, YouTube, Spotify, Audible. I didn't check Audible, but I'm pretty sure there's none. And we'll, leave topic ideas, books to review, comments about what we've said. If you're going to leave like a thesis on something we've talked about, please make sure that we can read it. And we can discuss it.
And it has a cohesive thought process.
Yeah. And that's it for the 2024 wrap up of the Book Revolution podcast.
Happy New Year!
Yep, we'll be back next time with new books and
new takes.
And yeah, a topic. Send us a topic to talk about. Do it.
Now.
Now.
Right now.
All right. We're leaving now. Bye.